What's up, guys? Before we get into the video, I just want to let you know that if you enjoy content like this, if you want exclusive videos and early access to the videos released here on YouTube, then consider joining our membership program here on YouTube. We don't make much from these videos. I actually lose money on every single video that we make because I have to hire somebody to record these videos, and YouTube, my subscriber reach and my view reach isn't as big as some of the other creators. So I'm still kind of like just doing this because it's promoting the business, so it's kind of like a cost that I justify. But the channel doesn't make that much, contrary to what most of you believe. Anyways, we will be posting a lot more content like this that goes in depth and it goes into more detail than some of our more basic videos, and I think a lot of you guys will enjoy and benefit from it. So if you do like this type of content, more is to come, but consider joining the YouTube membership program because there will be some really good exclusive content on there. Anyways, no more talk. Now let's get on to the podcast. It's been a long time coming, my friend.
How are you, man?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
I got a couple questions for you. I know. I think people are gonna get a kick out of watching us two together. And
yeah, I've a lot of people have asked me why this never happened.
Yeah. So, it finally happened.
Finally.
We're gonna talk about a bunch of different stuff. I think this is. I kind of like these type of videos because it's more like a podcast, like a conversation, and we could go, in depth into all the mores and all the stuff that you're doing, all the stuff that we're doing, and the community and everything. So I know you're trying to get out to the shows more, be more in the community. And
yeah, it's been nice actually doing that for a change. I didn't for so long.
Yeah, I hear you. But so like first of all, I gotta ask like the stereotypical question, like how did you get into reptiles and geckos, and how long have you been working with them?
So I started working with Cresties in 2008.
Yeah.
I've always been into reptiles my whole life. Having a kid growing up, we go out and catch snakes and frogs, and we don't have that much stuff in Colorado that we go catch.
You would have gone crazy here.
Yeah, here it'd be a lot more fun as a kid. There we have garter snakes, and 5 years old, you don't even catch a bull snake because they're so scary. And everybody tells you there's rattlesnakes everywhere. There's really not. Like they're there, but you can't find them when you're a kid. But growing up, I always had them.
Did you? I know you told me you keep leeches, chihuahuas, right?
Yeah, I do have just a few more as pets than anything for the business. I think I've got 6 leeches and 5 chewies.
Have you ever kept any like non-gecko reptiles?
I did some snakes for a while. I had carpet pythons for a little bit. I had Amazon tree boas for a bit. But when I really started to focus on doing this for a living, it became very apparent to me Cresties is what I was good at.
Yeah.
And everything else was fun, but was not productive as a business.
Yeah, I think, when I remember 10, 12, 15 years back, Cresteds were starting to get popular, but I don't think any of us could have imagined what it would have become.
Not even close. I thought, man, if I'm lucky, I might be able to do this. Like, maybe I could do this full-time someday, and then I'll get like a few years where that's my job, and then I'll have to figure out, go back to working in a warehouse or something.
Yeah, man, it's insane. I never thought, I never thought I would be able to do this full-time, and I never thought that was a real job.
Yeah.
When I first started, I was a kid, but I never thought people did this and fed their family just doing this.
Yeah, I remember when I first started really looking into it, there were 2 guys that did it full time, Caponetto and Matt from Pangea.
Yeah.
And that was everybody else. It was just like, you were on the old Pangea forums posting geckos for sale for $45, just begging people to buy them.
I know. Damn, the old days. How's business been this year, and what is going forward? What's the future of Altitude Exotics look like for you guys?
I'm not 100% sure the answer to that. I'm in a kind of a transition place right now. The whole industry's in a weird spot because the COVID bubble inflated everything so bad, and now obviously that's popping. So everybody's on the downturn. It's been a pretty slow year, but that was expected. Anybody that had any idea what was going on, you knew that was going to come. I'm not super surprised by it. It'll bounce back again. It always does.
Yeah, I think people, I'm not complaining. The COVID bubble was awesome.
Yeah, it was good, but you had to realize it was a bubble.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of people that saw what was going on and thought that's just the way of things and rushed into it real hard.
Yeah.
And now they're hurting real bad because they're figuring out that's not the way things normally work.
Yeah.
So I think it's a harder bubble than it should have been because so many of those people flooded in because there was so much money, and now there's a lot, like we were just talking,
Yeah.
10 years ago, 2 people were doing this full time. Now there's 50 of us that do this full time.
Yeah.
This industry can really only support about a dozen people doing it like that. And there's a
You
lot
think?
of people. Normally, yes. COVID got a lot of people that are doing this for money that they won't be here in 3 years.
Yeah, I
That's
get
what's
that.
making that flux.
I agree. I think though that the demand has significantly gone up, and because obviously social media just people see an animal on social media and they're like, oh my god, that's so cool, that's so cute, I want to get it.
Yep.
But I think demand has gone up, so we could and other countries are opening up and they're starting to realize how awesome these animals are.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I don't know if there's definitely there's more supply than there is demand right now. There's we see that because also people are scared to buy and everything. But I think that once it regulates, there's going to be a lot of people that are able to to make a living from it, and maybe they have to supplement with other species. You guys only really do crested geckos, right?
Yeah, even if not other species, other things. Like you guys have merch lines and videos.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Like I'm one of the few guys left that's all I really do is breed and sell animals. I don't really have other options.
Yeah.
But I've never really needed to either. At some point I will. At some point I'm going to have to diversify and start.
You may never. I mean,
We'll
Caponetto and
we'll see.
Yeah, but I think that even the guys that just if they're like you have your own Axanthics and you have particular lines that are so specific to you that people know that if they want the best Axanthic or they want an Emptyback Superstripe.
Yeah, it's a whole while.
We'll get to that.
We'll get time on the memory cards for that one.
That they go to you like you're a household name in the Crested Gecko community now. So I think certain people will have to supplement with other species and stuff. We supplement with other species because honestly, I love everything.
Yeah.
And we're in Florida, so I could keep a lot of stuff outside.
You guys get so much more flexibility down here with the weather.
Yeah, so
I'm confined.
I keep all kinds of stuff, man. I keep iguanas, tortoises, monitors. I keep everything, but I just love everything. But I think it just depends on the business model and everything. But
really, I think it's just finding what you're good at. I've seen a lot of people that try and diversify into something. Like a lot of people in Cresties right now, they do it because there was money in Cresties, and they're not going to last because they did it because there's money in Cresties.
Yeah.
Versus if you do it because you love it, that's where you're going to find that real long distance staying power.
100%, and it's almost a gift and a curse that the people that when we started, there's no money in it, and we just did it because it was a cool thing and it was a hobby, and then it grew into what it is now. Now people nowadays see that there's money in it, and when they don't start making money right away, they're like, I'm out.
Yep, they just start dumping everything. And
Yeah,
I've always said there's about a 3-year cycle where things get really good and then they crash and then they get good again and crash.
Yeah.
And we were at the end of that 3-year cycle naturally, and then the COVID bubble, instead of crashing from here, we're crashing from up here.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why this year is going to be more brutal than it should have been.
Yeah.
But, it's a natural cycle. It'll bounce back. It always does.
Yeah. But going back to to your business and what you're doing with altitude, I know obviously you have your Axanthics, you have your lily white Axanthics. What's your goal now with the Axanthics? Now that more people have them, and I see some guys in Korea doing really cool stuff with them, producing Axanthic Superstripes, producing obviously the lily Axanthics are crazy everywhere. But do you have a pathway for your Axanthics that you want to take them in, or are you going to produce pinstripe Axanthics, quads Axanthics?
Pinstripe Axanthics, I'm definitely still focusing on. Mostly trying to get the numbers up on those because they're still fairly rare. so much of my effort and energy went into the lily white Axanthics.
Yeah.
And now that that's super established, the pinstripes and super dally Axanthics I'm still working on.
Super dally Axanthics?
Yeah,
What's up with that, right?
I've been focusing on that for a while. It's been a bit of a slow rolling project, like I said, just because so much time and physical space in my facility went to the lily white crosses. But those ones, I've got some really nice ones finally starting to grow up, some nice visuals that have a good amount of dowel spots, some really nice super dowel heads that are growing up. I think that one's going to have some real fun results over the next 5-6 years or so.
Yeah. And how's your super cap, super damage project?
The Axanthics are awesome, man. The Axanthics are doing great.
I know, I think we all got caps, and we're like, oh, wait, when this whole thing with the caps happened, and we're like, ah, damn it.
That was just a mess.
The worst thing, though, is when Reptiles by Mac realized they have caps, and they're just dumping them everywhere.
Yeah.
They're just dumping them.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking at all these caps I got in my house going, I should have bought a house instead.
Yeah.
Not in Denver, because our house prices are ridiculous, but in Texas somewhere, I probably could have picked one up.
You could have had some big property,
right?
Big facility.
It'd be like you guys with all this stuff outside, beautiful place.
Instead, you got some cappuccino.
Instead, I got some messed up super caps, and yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, I know. Are you? I know I saw you talk with AJ, and in the Gecko pod about the sables and that you didn't have room for them. But are you considering maybe getting rid of some of the cap project and doing some sable or what?
I am. I am finally getting some sables. I have a box. We're just waiting for it to cool down. Right now because it's too hot to ship them in. But I do have a box that I'm going to keep about half of them and put a few of them up for sale.
Oh, nice. It's from Korea?
Yeah. One of the guys that I've worked with a lot over there.
Yeah.
He's been bugging me forever. Do you want to start working with them? Do you want to sell a few? You should work with these. And I was kind of held off. Wanted to see what the market was going to do. My whole personal life has been a interesting go the last year. So I was like, no, I can't. It doesn't work. I finally got to a spot where I was like, all right, I'll take in a few. I do want to see them in person because it's always hard when people ask me, caps versus sables. How do you? And I'm like, I don't know. I've never actually seen a sable in person. I have now. At the last show out in Anaheim, there was a few there.
Well, okay, so question about that. Some people say that it's the same thing. Some people say it's different. What do you think? Do you think it's a different gene altogether, or is it the same thing?
I think it's different, but I'm not sure. I wouldn't be surprised if they're similar and there's just differences to them visually because they came from different places with different projects and they were crossed into different things. They might be the same thing, but that's why I kind of want to get some because I don't have answers to that. I've never even held one. Yeah,
the thing is the supers, right? Like the supers are clearly different, and then when you make supers from both, or they're allelics, they're supposed to be allelic, and when you make a super from both, it comes out different than either super cappuccino or super sable. But and that's one of those things that is like a lot. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and just there's not enough information.
Exactly.
That's people to really.
The main reason I decided to buy some sables was I keep getting asked these questions. I'm like, I can tell you what I've had other people tell me. But
until you work with them, you don't really
everybody who's telling me about Emptybacks, I'm like, I'm a bit dubious what everybody else
tells me. Okay, let's get into that.
I want to figure it out for myself.
Right. So with the Emptyback, so I made a post like these different Emptybacks or whatever, and you're saying that Emptyback and Superstripe is the same thing. Now, so I don't think it's like two completely separate things. If anything, I was talking to Anthony, and we think it might be allelic or the word is epistasis or something like that.
I have a different theory actually. I went over this with Andrew Gilpin from Living Wild. We had dinner last time he was driving through Denver because he was telling me that a lot of people were claiming they know for sure Emptybacks and Superstripes are totally different morphs.
I think so. I think you can make like let's say you have two super Emptybacks or like what you would call like just an Emptyback. If you breed those together, you'll always get super Emptybacks, right? As
to the
far
best
as
of my knowledge that I've seen,
from your experience.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you have two super stripes, what like we would consider super stripes, where there's not as much, there's more of that dorsal markings in the middle. You get both. You get super empty backs and super stripes. So I think it's like it's very closely together. I think there's a little bit of a difference, but it's very closely together. Kind of like how, you can't. It's hard to say something is an empty back if it doesn't have pinstriping, just because the pinstripe kind of holds it together, or lack of of the pattern. But so I think it's one of those things like pinstripe needs to be present, most likely.
Yep.
And I think super stripe is an empty back, but an empty back is not necessarily a super stripe.
So my theory, if I could just for a moment to give the history of like why I come at this different from everybody else, because like I started working with super stripes, and then originally empty back was just my like internal project name.
Yeah.
Because that was my goal, was to get super stripes with the widest dorsal possible, so it had an empty back.
Yeah.
That's where I came up with the name, and somewhere along the line, people not in my facility started considering it a separate morph. And now I'm going, well, wait a minute, guys, I know they're not a separate morph, because all the empty backs came from me. I started it, and all my empty backs are super stripes. I bought them from Caponetto, like literally drove to his house and picked them up.
Yeah.
I've never worked with anything that's not a super stripe.
Right.
I think my theory on what's happening is that the C2 hypogene that we use a lot, if you notice when you mix that with like a tiger or a phantom pinstripe, all the lines get really crisp. It reduces, like if you breed into a tiger, the tiger stripes get reduced and thinned out. That was my theory, was when you breed a super stripe with a C2 hypo, it reduces the pattern, cleans those lines up, makes everything thinner and crisper, and that's where we get that classic empty back look, is it's actually the hypogene that's making the pattern be more reduced and
so
more
that's what
crisp
you think,
and fine.
it's the hypogene?
That was my theory, is that's what they are. It's not a different thing, it's a super stripe with something else on top.
Okay. I think that well, it's hard to say because like I said, I think Caponetto was doing the super stripes, and that's what he was focusing on to make that, that clean line down the middle. But that's, in how I see it, it's a form of empty back, right? So it's almost like you can't have a tricolor without a harlequin. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like one of those things. But I mean, I think obviously there's still a lot more experimenting that we need to do. But Caponetto thinks it's like, Caponetto calls it empty back, and that he thinks it's like its own thing. It's in complete dominance. That's what he said.
Which I've always found interesting, because when I saw him started posting that, I was thinking, but I got these all from you.
Yeah.
Like, how do you think they're two different things? They're literally your animals. They're all the same ones. Yeah. So maybe he found, I don't know if he found something in his own collection that he separated them out and says they're different things.
Yeah.
Or if he was bringing stuff in that were labeled as empty backs in addition to what he already had, which would have been, several generations removed from what I got from him at that point. I don't know. It's interesting. But yeah, when about a year and a half ago, I had a similar discussion with Andrew Gilpin, and that's the conclusion I kind of came to. Was I think it's super stripes with that hypogene on top is what's making them that more classic empty back look.
Okay, that's a different, point of view that I haven't heard before. But you know what? I'm going to ask Anthony, because we're going to do like a podcast later on. We're working on something. So I'll definitely ask him.
He thinks about it too.
Yeah. And as far as what else do you think the community has wrong that, like one of those things, like we addressed the empty back and, what your different point of view on it. Is there any other morph that you think that there's a misconception around that the community has wrong?
The one that I feel pretty strongly about, there's no way, I mean, I guess you could do some sort of genetic testing probably and figure it out if somebody really wanted to get into it. But I've always been a firm believer that all the Axanthics are the same. There's a lot of people that say, like, they're different lines, they're different versions, or one's actually Anery and one's Axanthic. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
No, and I would say it's already proven it's not, because we have crossed your line with you know, the Florida lines. There's like 3 or 4 Florida lines.
Yeah, which again, it's just like logically.
Exactly.
So what's more likely, that there have been hets unidentified for a long, long time, and people are just starting to figure out what the weird looking ones are when they hatch out, or 4 different lines of Axanthics all spawning. Why can I not say that word?
Spontaneously?
Yes.
It's early.
It's been a long weekend. That those all just randomly happened after 28 years of breeding Cresties. They all happened 18 months apart, all of them in Florida.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
No. What it is it's not that people think it's its own separate thing. They're just trying to market their business, so they put, Obscurio Axanthic or Manatee Suncoast Axanthic, but it's all the same gene.
And that's fine.
And we've seen it. They've bred together and produced
all
visuals.
bred together. It's when some people have said, well, my line's different. It's not the same thing. It's a totally different gene. I'm like, no, it's just because you give it a fancy, weird, mystique-sounding name. Realistically, these, if you look at reptiles in general, almost every new morph in every reptile species came from the wild.
Yeah.
Things don't just pop up in captive collections randomly.
Yeah.
It very rarely.
Yeah.
We haven't had wild Cresties since '96.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's wildly likely one of the original ones that got imported in the early '90s was a het Axanthic, and it just took 25 years of people breeding them together to accidentally get 2 hets 20 years down the line.
Yeah.
I know there were other visuals before I got mine.
Oh, yeah?
I've seen pictures of other visuals, but think about how many Cresties are in the world, and if somebody at Reptiles by Mac just accidentally hatches a visual, and whoever they're paying $8 an hour back in 2004 to feed all their geckos isn't going to realize it's something different, and it ends up in a Petco, and some kid has it.
And that's what happened with the calves. That's literally what happened with the calves.
I guarantee that happened with Axanthics. I was just the first one lucky enough to get one that was recognized.
Yeah, you recognize it first. So the Axanthics, I love the dark Axanthics, and I've noticed that when you breed, so a lot of our Axanthics is because you were trying to produce an all-white gecko, remember, right?
Yeah.
By breeding yellow heads to Axanthics, right? Yep. Okay, so I've noticed that a lot of the Axanthics that have like yellow underneath are not as dark.
Yeah.
And even having one female that you could even see some yellow going through, like on the bottom on her jaw. But so now, like my Axanthic project is going to be geared towards super dark animals. So I'm going to breed all my Axanthics to super dark base animals to produce as dark as possible.
Yeah.
Is that something that you've seen that? I think that really makes a difference in. Well, I mean, some people like those purpley looking Axanthics.
Yeah.
But I think those dark ones are like where it's at.
That's almost a regret of mine, is the dark ones caught so much more attention early on that I just focused on that when I was picking stuff to hold back and breeding my hets. I started to focus on that because that's what everybody liked and wanted, and that's what got more attention. And now that I'm looking back, I see it was more of the market influencing my choices in breeding, and now I kind of wish I would have had more foresight to go, no, like those are very popular now, but for future purposes I need to also focus on more light-based ones, because now the dark ones are going to get more popular, and I can see a day in the future when the light ones will, everything comes in cycles.
It's
like I wish I would have put more effort into that, and the super DAO projects I'm working with that would just look better on the really light-based ones. So I should have focused a bit more on that, but I was more focused on what was getting a lot of attention at the time, which makes sense. But hindsight's 2020. I wish I would have maybe put a little more effort into the lighter ones. I still have a few of them, but the darker ones kind of took over most of the project.
I think that's what calls more, that's what attracts more people for sure. Another dark gecko that you guys work with is charcoals, and that's something that you dubbed. That was your name, right? Charcoal.
Yeah. So that one, the original one, I got in a wholesale pack actually. And it was just a little baby when I got it, and it was just a real dark, patternless gecko. And as it grew up, it just got darker and darker and darker. And I thought I should try and breed this and see if it proves out at all. And that's another project that I again have hindsight some regrets on, is I've never expanded the charcoals at all. All I've ever done is make more of them and breed them together. Find some, back 15 years ago when I started it, we were thinking about these things a different way. So it wasn't, what's going to work with the genetics. It was, well, what's kind of similar that I compare it to. So that's all I did to make more of them. And now that's all I've done for 10 years with them is just make more of them.
Yeah.
But, I've talked about it before in other podcasts. I only have so much space in my facility.
Yeah. It's hard
and it's hard to do everything I want to. Like, I have entire projects that I've had to abandon because it just didn't make as much sense as doing a bunch of Axanthic stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So the charcoals, like everybody asks me, what happens when you breed a charcoal to a lily white? And I have to go, I honestly don't know. I've never tried it. I don't have the space to go.
Really?
Because and also business sense, it doesn't make sense for me to pair one charcoal and one lily white and I'm going to get, 6 babies out of it?
Yeah, yeah.
Just logistically, that doesn't actually tell you a lot because you have such a small sample size.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do anything for business purposes because I only have 6 of them.
Yeah.
It doesn't make much sense. So it's like, unless I can dedicate 20 geckos to a full breeding project and test different things and outcross, I generally won't do it.
Yeah.
So I've never done a whole lot with the charcoals other than, cross in other phantoms and other darker animals back in the day to make more charcoals.
Okay, so the charcoals, what are, so it's a phantom, it's just your line of really dark phantoms, right?
So I think it's similar. I've had this conversation with other people before, and we've had the debate, is a charcoal a phantom that's dark, or is phantom different? And I think it's something similar to like the Axanthic gene, that Axanthics aren't phantoms.
Yeah.
But they have a similar effect where, like, all the harlequin markings, the Axanthic gene just erases those.
Yeah.
I think charcoals are similar, where they have the same visual appearance as the phantom because it cleans out all the harlequin markings.
Yeah.
But they're not just dark phantoms.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
I got you. So, so you haven't bred any charcoals to any non-phantom animals?
I have just like pinstripes, dark-based pinstripes in the past.
And did they pop out like patternless animals or
both? Yeah, patternless and regular, just dark-based pinstripes.
Okay,
and then I would just keep the patternless ones, the dark patternless ones.
And what do they fire down like? Like a dark gray, or
they're kind of like, if you imagine really ugly Axanthics, they range from like light gray to light brownish. They're like if an Axanthic wasn't Axanthic. That doesn't make any sense, but the Axanthics are so monochrome they stand out. If they weren't monochrome but they still look like that, that's kind of what the charcoals look like. Just like really browned out Axanthics almost.
Right. Okay. And so when you're, I know you say you have a limited amount of space. When you're working with that limited amount of space, are you like, when you're deciding what to pair with each other from the same type of group, how are you doing it? Are you line breeding? Are you tracking lineage to a point that you're saying, okay, I don't want to pair this with 2 siblings together. I want to at least wait 2 generations or a generation to pair it back to each other.
It depends on what it is. There's obviously some stuff where you have to line breed and pair, parents and offspring or siblings together.
That's how we got Axanthics and everything
there's some stuff where you have to do that. Other stuff like the Confetti line, for one, is a good example. It's not recessive, so you don't have to breed siblings to get more red spots. So that one I've had a lot more room to expand it. And I'll generally, at the end of every year, I'll go through my breeding groups, and first I look at all the females and decide, are there any girls that I want to not breed next year, something that I have a younger, whether it's a sibling or a cousin or distant relative, that I can take her out and put a different, nicer, newer version essentially in this breeding group. And then I'll go through and look at all the males and go, well, does this male still fit with this group of females? Or do I have a nicer male I can plug in that's from a newer line? Or is that grouping not doing what I want it to and I need to go a different direction and try a different male?
Right.
That's kind of how I approach it at the end of every year. And some groups stay the same. I've got groups that have been the same 3 or 4 animals breeding for years and years now because I'm just happy with the offspring. I like what they do. I'm going to keep them there. Some stuff I switch around every single year. It just depends.
Okay. And so your Confetti line, I heard you talk on the other podcast that you haven't been able to really get those red spots on yellow geckos.
Yeah, I don't know why that doesn't work. Like, you can get a yellow gecko with some red spots on it.
But it's never as much as...
But I've never... Like, I had a lot of luck. If I look at now the Confettis I started with compared to what I do with red spots now, it's insane the amount of progress. That's the one I'm the most proud of.
Oh, really?
Because that's what in-house I've made the most progress on.
The Confettis in particular?
Yeah. The Axanthics I have a lot of pride in, but I got the Axanthic bloodline, and I've done really cool things with it.
Yeah.
But the amount of progress isn't nearly as much as the Confettis. I've done all completely in-house for almost 15 years now.
Yeah.
And the difference between where I started and where I'm at, it's like a Grand Canyon gulf of improvement.
That's awesome. How is that one of your more popular animals that once you put up on the website, it's gone immediately?
Those ones, so Dalmatian, I was just having this conversation downstairs with someone yesterday. Dalmatians are a weird one where most morphs kind of stay in one spot. Like Harlequins were always popular, and the tricolors got more popular, and then they came down a little bit. But everything kind of goes in slow waves.
Yeah.
Dalmatians don't. They go up and down and up and down. Yeah, so there's times when the Super Dals and especially the Confettis, they sell instantly. Everybody wants them. Everybody's talking about them. And then like 18 months later, nobody wants spots, and you can't sell them for anything.
I know.
They're hard to move, and like the craziest red spot ones, nobody's really interested. And I'm looking at them, what the hell? That animal's amazing. And then 18 months later, people are begging me for red spots again.
Funny how
it's
that works.
funny how the just for some reason the Dalmatians just go through such enormous swings in how popular they are.
Yeah, I think we're starting to see now how like everybody has Dalmatians, like Super Dals, like nice Super Dals, and there's males all over the tables. Like in the that we're seeing that.
Yeah.
I think Dalmatians are cool, but why do you think is like people do not like spots on a harlequin, like on a patterned gecko, like a harlequin or something? People just hate those animals.
So this one, I always get a bunch of crap when I say this, but I say it every single time. I truly in my heart don't think people dislike spots on a patterned geckos.
Okay.
I think most people are scared that everybody else dislikes spots.
Yes, 100%.
Like, if we all just decided, like, none of us actually care that much, we're just so concerned nobody else will like our stuff.
It's a few, it's a loud minority that has made that like a thing.
It's like such a thing now. People are terrified of, like, oh, I've literally had people that are like, I love that gecko, but I can't have it because I'm not as big as you, and if I had spots on my geckos, I won't be able to sell them like you do. Like, you can get away with it because of your name. I'm like,
what are you talking about?
That's stupid. If all of you said the same thing, none of us would care. Like, I get where they're coming from, but at the same time, I'm like, if you just stop caring, and then that person stops caring, and we all just honestly stop caring, it won't be an issue anymore.
I had a gecko yesterday that this girl was going through the geckos, and she saw this one gecko, like nice white pattern and stuff, had like 3 spots, like one on the head, like tiny spot, like one here and one on the side, and she's like, damn, that's perfect for my project, but it has 3 spots. I'm like in one generation you can like produce spotless babies, no problem.
I had one, I'm not even vending here, and I had somebody come up to me and show me my website on their phone and be like, does this gecko have any spots on it? My gecko's 2,800 miles away. And I told them, I was like, I really want to buy it right now, but I can't have spots. And I finally
told them, it has one spot.
I know. It's like, does it have a spot under its toe pads that you can't see? I ended up telling the person, I'm like, just buy it if you really want it, and when I get home, I'll look at it, and if it does have spots, I'll find you one that doesn't to swap it out. But,
oh my God.
We'll make it work. But yeah, I've always thought that if we all just stop making it a big deal, it won't be a big deal.
Yeah, I agree. So, listen up. Stop making it a big deal. Do you think, what's your, so is Confetti your favorite morph? Like, is that your personal favorite morph?
Yeah, it is.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever, so are you, with the Confettis, are you still just refining on Confettis, or have you tried breeding them to lily whites to see what happens if they could get red spots or anything like that?
I haven't bred them to lily whites. I did just see on Instagram, I wish I remembered the name of who it was, but I don't off the top of my head. I saw somebody was breeding Confetti lily whites. They actually had some pretty nice results with it.
Yeah.
I've never tried it. I started for years it was just about getting more red spots and limiting the black spots to get almost all red spots. And now I've started to focus on bigger spots, like ink spots. I've had a lot of fun with. And then for years I tried to get yellow-based confettis, and it just doesn't really work for some reason.
Yeah, it's so weird how that works. Where do you think? So obviously, most people like their Super Dalmatians with like a clean slate, like a patternless animal with a bunch of big spots. Do you think? I feel like that gets limiting. Where do you think that Super Dalmatians can go? Because the reason I ask is because I saw Caponetto post maybe a couple weeks back or something, a really dope like full phantom pinstripe with like super heavy brindling, and like it was a super Dal, and I was like, oh man, that looks really dope.
I like those a lot. I did for a long time. I had like a C2 pinstripe, phantom pinstripe line of super Dals.
Yeah.
Which they're good. The phantom ones people seem to like really well. But then if you're going to do that, you're going to also get normal pinstripes, and then people don't want those ones.
Yeah.
Which that one I was just like, you all are crazy, because an orange pinstripe with a lot of big spots on it looks incredible.
Cool. Yeah.
Those are so cool. So I think there's room there. It's one of the reasons I wanted to move them into Axanthics is, you could see pretty early on, that's one of the problems with Axanthics, is there's not a lot of room to do much with them. They're either Axanthic or they're not.
Yeah.
And then it's like eventually the novelty of having a black and white gecko, or mostly just a black gecko, is going to wear off.
Yeah.
It's like, so now what?
You
don't want it to be a dead-end morph, so now what?
Yeah.
Dalmatians are a great example of, it's a gene you can add in that you can also refine through selective breeding and outcrossing to get bigger, more spots. Basically just restart the Dalmatian game on an Axanthic base and run it up that way.
Yeah. Do you think, when it comes to like the different combos that are coming out nowadays, like, the fraps and people are doing, I saw somebody hatch, I don't know how they could tell it is an Axanthic cappuccino. Was it a Lily? No. I think it was just an Axanthic cappuccino. But I'm like, once you hatch a Axanthic cappuccino, how do you tell it's...
Yeah.
Or I don't know, it's like...
I've always tried to stay away from crossings. Like I've been around long enough. I've seen, and first it was corn snakes this happened to, and then leopard geckos, and now it's happening with ball pythons, where people list stuff for sale, and they go, well, I know it has these genes, and I think it has these ones, and it's inevitable, it's already starting to happen, but I've tried to never pair things where if I'm not going to know for sure what it is when it hatches. I don't want to play guessing games.
Yeah.
It's like I used to get people don't ask anymore. I don't know. Maybe they finally listened when I answer. People used to ask all the time, when are you going to cross charcoals and Axanthics? And I said, I'm not.
Why would you do it?
I have no desire to hatch something and look at it and go, is this a charcoal or is this an Axanthic? I don't.
Well, I could see their train of thought, because they're probably thinking that would be like the darkest animal you've ever seen.
I can see the train of thought, but that's where my mind goes to.
It's a problem with phantom cappuccinos. It's like you get really dark phantoms, but it's like a lot of phantoms just have a dark tail as is. Yeah. So it's like good luck distinguishing which are actually cappuccino and which are not.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's inevitable, but I've tried to stay away from breeding things where I'm not going to be able to tell what they are.
Yeah, yeah. Are you So I'm assuming if you have cappuccinos, you're gonna go for a bunch of fraps. I think that's like probably the coolest thing you could do.
Yeah, I think
with the
base colored, like orange, yellow, red base colored fraps is kind of what has my interest the most.
Really? But have you noticed that they do? So like obviously like a clean red lily white, it's so bright. The red or orange base fraps or caps, they tend to like muddy out, and they tend to get a little bit darker. As they get older, they get grayed out a little bit. Have you noticed?
I have, especially with the orange ones. I've noticed it a lot, which I kind of like that look. I think it's interesting.
It's different,
I'd be curious. Like you said, it's one of those things. I've seen other people do it, but until I can do it myself and go, okay, these two animals produce that. Why did they do that? What if I do it with similar animals, but with this variation? That's what's fun, is figuring it out for yourself.
Yeah, exactly, and hatching the babies for yourself. Have you hatched any fraps yet?
I haven't, actually. I have eggs cooking now. Most of my caps that I'm breeding this year aren't breeding all that well, which is, they're all young first-year breeders. That's not very unexpected.
Right.
Especially first-year girls, I never expect to do all that well. So I'm not super surprised. I don't think it's an issue with the gene or anything. I think it's very much just they're all very young animals because it's very new.
Yeah.
So I haven't hatched too much of that stuff yet, and I don't have too many of them breeding.
Have you? So I've been hatching some. Well, I have a male that was sold to me as a calf. It looks very calf, but when I hatched the initial babies, I was like, wait, hold up, none of these look frap or calf. and then, but now, like, I look at those babies again, and like, there's a clear distinction between some of the lily whites that I see, where obviously some have like a wider tail, and some look like tricolor-ish. And I'm like, now these are starting to look like frap, but they're hard to tell right from the
That's what I've heard with fraps is
they're very hard to tell.
Wait a couple months sometimes.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not calling them fraps yet, but they look very frappy. So I have to wait until like they're bigger. But I'll just give you a heads up. It's like sometimes you're like, wait, what the hell? Like, this is not a calf.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. That's one of the things that makes me a bit nervous with them is, like I just said, I don't like hatching stuff that I don't know what it is. I don't want to play that what-if game. I don't want to ever sell something and then comes back later and it's not what it was.
Yeah.
But it is inevitable. That kind of stuff is going to start happening more and more.
Yeah. I think it'll... I mean, you grow your animals out before you sell them anyway, so I think you'll definitely tell, like, before then. But I'm... One of my favorite morpho of all time is the lily white. I think it's just awesome what it's done, and I just love that bright color and what it does to every base color. What's your favorite like lily white combos that you produce?
Red lily whites are hard to beat.
It is hard to beat.
Really nice.
It's like brighter than just a regular red gecko. Like people don't understand.
Yeah, that might be my favorite. They're just so spectacular.
Yeah, I like the reds are like I said hard like you said hard to beat, but the high coverage, I was so like stoked about them like when we first started producing them. Then you produce them so easily, and then you're like they all look the same now.
Yeah, that's another one of those kind of alright now what? Dead end. You did it. Now you gotta find something new to do.
So the reason why I was asking about Dalmatian spots on the if you've bred your confettis and stuff to the lily whites is because I've noticed that lily whites it's harder to get Dalmatian spots on lilies. But I'll be honest, I haven't bred like a super Dal to a lily, but I've noticed I see very, very, very little Dalmatian spots on lilies. But imagine like one of those full coverage lily whites with a bunch of big Dalmatian spots. That'd be dope.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Maybe I'll have to, when I redo my project at the end of the year, maybe
I just gave you an idea there.
So I'm already thinking about that. Like, I'm going to cut back on my lily white production some. And I have a lot of breeding groups that are like a really nice high pattern male.
Yeah.
And then like 3 red pinstripe females or 3 solid red phantom females.
Yeah.
And, like, I got to cut a few of those out because I don't want to overproduce lily whites.
Yeah.
But well, maybe if I swap in some Dal females, that'll make it worth it because at least I'm trying something.
Now you owe me one for...
I'll send you, if I get something real cool, I'll send you, baby.
Hey, what's your thoughts on the pixel gene? Have you seen those? The pixels?
I don't. So I have seen them.
Do you have any?
I don't think so.
They're hard to. Some of them are hard to tell.
They can be hard to tell. Yeah. I think it's gonna be like caps, or that's another one where there's gonna be a lot of people going, "Oh, I found this one. I think it's a pixel. How do I prove it?"
Yeah.
Oh, I've had those for years. I've got my own line.
There's
gonna be a lot of that messiness going on. It's definitely one that you look back at pictures through the years and you're like, God, those were everywhere back in the early 2010s, and they were just kind of ugly plain geckos that we all got rid of because our mindset was totally different back then.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's one of it. I mean, I already know people that are saying like, I have pixels, like, and they're not like those pixels, but I'm like, all right, well, there we go.
That stuff happens. Like, I am positive I had a lily white 10 years before lily white came out. Years and years ago, yeah.
Really?
It was one of the third gecko I ever bought. It It was the first gecko I bought as like an investment when I was gonna breed geckos. I was like a 20-year-old idiot back then. And I remember telling my dad I'm gonna breed geckos for a living. He was like, "This is my son is out of his mind." And I was gonna drive to a town from Colorado.
Where are you now, Mr. Butler? Where are you now?
He could not be more. He's my biggest supporter. He laughs about it all the time. He tells this exact story where he's like, "Remember that time? Like I had like 3 geckos at home, and I told him I'm gonna make this business and do this, and I drove 2 hours south to a different town to go buy a gecko somebody had listed for $100. And I remember when I was leaving, my dad told me, "What's wrong with you? You're gonna go drive 2 hours and pay $100 for a lizard? What the hell's wrong with you?"
I know.
Nowadays, he's like, he tells that story and laughs about how wrong he was.
Now he's a proud dad.
Yeah, he's very proud. That gecko I went and bought that day, I'm positive it was a lily white.
Really? But did you ever breed it?
And she would never breed. She was always a bit undersized, a female. I tried pairing her several times.
Yeah, I remember lily whites. I remember lily whites before they were called lily whites that Lily Exotics showed them. I think on the forum. I don't know where they showed them. But I was like, yo, what the hell? Like, that's not a regular white gecko. I was like, that's insane. Or I just thought, I was like, it's so crazy they've gotten to that.
Yeah.
Like, they refined it so much to that. And I was bugging them for years and years and years. And they're like, no, we're not ready. You know, we're not selling them yet. But yeah, I think that's one of those I think that's like the first morph that really just took this thing to a new level.
Yeah, they definitely were shot in the arm.
Yeah, people were really excited about them, and like, I still think they're probably one of the prettiest geckos that you could see at a table.
I've always wondered too with them, like the impact they had on the market is, from a business perspective, I've always thought Lily Exotics, I say this very respectfully, completely screwed that up.
Yeah.
Simply because they didn't know, when they started selling Lily Whites, they started them at a tenth of what they should have costed.
Yeah.
Because they just had no idea that they could have asked 10 grand each for those.
Yeah.
They were still in the mindset where most of us came up that $1,000 gecko was ridiculous.
Because I think in America, the game was a little different, and in Europe, it was still like, that's how it was.
I don't think they quite realized. So I've always thought, like, those guys left so much money on the table. They should have started those at 10 grand a piece, not 1,500 a piece. But on the other hand, had they done that, how much would that have slowed the game down? Because it would have limited how many people could get into it. It would have been better for them.
Yeah,
but
it would have been.
Business mind goes, you guys should have made a different choice.
Right.
But overall, with the gecko world, or would it maybe have made it better because it would have been more limited and it would have taken them longer to get overpopulated? I don't know. It's one of those things I think about and like, what if? What would have happened?
Yeah. Okay, so question. What gecko breeder, what crested gecko breeder do you look at and you really like what they're doing that's not named Altitude Exotics? Like what?
That's a huge list.
There's so many, right? But if you had to pick one, like, shout out one person.
Like I gotta pick one? Alright, now I gotta think about it a bit
That's
more.
not Flawless either. Shout out to Flawless.
Flawless.
No, I know.
So I'm gonna, like, I tend to look at, like, who's doing what morph the best. Like, Flawless, obviously, they do a lot of good stuff, but their high white extreme harlequins, like non-lily white high whites, are insane. Samantha Maddox at Crestopia, she's been doing this long.
OG, yeah.
Her Dalmatians have always been some of my favorite Dals.
Yeah.
She was one of the ones that got me into Super Dals way back in 2008,
Oh, really?
9.
Back in the forum days?
Yeah, back in the forum days, we would go over Super Dals all the time. She's always been a favorite.
Yeah.
For sure.
Nice. And what do you, is there anything that you're working on that you haven't made public yet that maybe you want to tell to the people? Or is there anything that you could say?
Other than all the albinos I'm planning, I wish. No, I don't have much right now that's like, everything right now is evolutions rather than revolutions.
Right, gotcha.
I would love to say that I've got some new, something as drastic as super caps have been, or stables, or the Axanthics when they first came out, but unfortunately I don't have anything that crazy going on. It's more evolutions of everything else.
Just refining.
Yeah,
that's your thing, your slogan, right? Refinement?
Yep.
Yeah.
Quality, refinement, progression.
Nice. So I know that we're gonna start wrapping it up, but I know that you love traveling. You've gone to Africa. What else? Belize.
I've been all over the place. I've been to Singapore, Bali. We did the Komodo Islands.
Yeah. Did you see Komodo dragons?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
That's one of my dreams.
It's interesting out there because there's safety precautions. Like, we're so used to American safety. Like, you get on a boat to go on a snorkel trip, and it's a 20-minute lecture about here's your life jacket.
Yeah.
Out there, we were on this little boat. It was like a sleep aboard with 4 people. It was just me and a buddy of mine and 4 crew members on this little tiny boat. And they don't tell you where life jackets are. The seas are all rough. The rails hit you about right here in the leg, so if you trip, you're going over.
Yeah. That's different.
And then we get to Rinka Island, because there's 5 islands where the dragons live. And we go like off-trail hiking, just straight up the side of the mountain. Get to this giant granite boulder on top of this mountain, and there's this dragon, huge dragon, resting on top of it. And I'm like, I don't know, from here to the doors over there away, 30, 40 feet. And I'm taking pictures like, this is incredible. And the guide goes, well, you want to get closer? So, well, hell yeah, I do. So we walked over, and now we're like, it's this giant rock, like the size of a pickup. And he's laying on the, like where the hood of the pickup would be, and we're standing where the bed would be, standing at the rock. And I'm getting like, oh, these are amazing pictures. I'm 10 feet away from this huge lizard. This is incredible.
That's
and then
insane.
I look at the guy, I'm like, I got my pictures. I assume it's time to leave. And he slaps a rock and goes, well, you going to hop up there or what? Like, well, I'm never going to have this opportunity again. So, So I hop up. I could like reach out and touch this dragon.
Yeah.
He's right there. The guy's taking pictures of me. And then we finally get down, we're walking back, and I ask him, will these ever bite one of the tourists? Oh, yeah.
All the time.
Just a couple times a year. You can't read them at all. They'll just whip out and grab you by the leg.
There's some tourist American. American gecko breeder dies.
Oh, it was fun.
I have a funny story. So we have some friends at one of these local zoos that took us behind the scenes to see the Komodo dragons, and my dumbass wore the brightest Yeezys I had, like the brightest colored shoes I had. And we go into this back room when he's about to, like, where they put him in at night and stuff, and he lets him out, and they're trained to go after like a laser, right? You see the Komodo, it sees my Yeezys, and it just beelines for me. I'm like, bro, I swear to God, I'm like freaking out, and then he grabs it by the tail and pulls it back, and then with the light, he like guides it back into the cage. He's like, all right, we're not doing that anymore.
That's funny.
But
a little nerve-wracking.
Oh yeah, bro. I was like, we saw a couple, and one of them was really chill, but that one in particular was a big male, and I was shitting bricks, man. I was so scared.
Yeah, they're impressive animals, man.
Yeah, they're very smart. I mean,
very intelligent.
We have Asian water monitors, so it's like the same type of intelligence. Like they just like look at you, they're like looking around, they're thinking, and it's insane. But all right, I know we're both big UFC guys. We love the UFC.
We are.
Who's your favorite fighter right now?
Favorite right now might be Adesanya.
Adesanya? Yeah, same thing.
The cage awareness, the IQ.
Yeah, same thing. I just love his style. He's my favorite fighter right now too. His style is just, it's insane. Who's your favorite fighter of all time?
All time. It's hard to pick one person because at some point they all either just fall off a cliff performance-wise or personality-wise. They get to a point like prime 2016 McGregor was obviously one of the most incredible sights you'll ever see. Yeah. But now the dude's just reprehensible. Like, I can't say he's my favorite of all time. He's just
I hear
waste of a human at this point.
I hear it. Man, I still remember
different eras like that, like prime McGregor era, prime Jose Aldo era was incredible.
My favorite, so I have 2 favorites of all time: Anderson Silva and BJ Penn. And
BJ Penn's a hard one for me.
Oh well, because of now, but I'm talking about like
Shaq era BJ's not good.
Well, I'm talking about BJ of old, like
old BJ.
That old BJ. He
was Max Holloway.
Max Holloway, Max Holloway's an animal, and he's still like respectable. Like,
he's fighting Korean Zombie next weekend.
He's gonna mob him.
He's gonna become Zombie. I'm not real happy to see that one.
Yeah. At this point, they're just giving him somebody that's not Alexander Volkanovski.
Yeah, like, what else
doesn't
are you
know
gonna
what to
do?
do with him.
You're not big enough to go to 55, and you just gotta wait for Volkanovski to either move or get too old. And
Yeah, and by then you might be too old.
Exactly.
Whatever. Anyways, Brian, man, thank you so much. I had a lot of fun.
Appreciate it, man.
And it's been awesome talking to you, bro.
You as well, man. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, bro.